On yet? Thank you very much, Femi. Okay. It is such a great honor to be invited to address this forum and this gathering. Thank you so much. And I want to say how meaningful the leadership of Lisa Kingo has been at the Global Compact, and to all of the distinguished guests, excellencies, ministers. I don't know which categories to add, but to everyone who deserves recognition, you have it from me. And thank you for asking me to say a few words. Indeed, the climate crisis still looms and is getting ever worse. And I'll give just a few facts on that, but I want to emphasize the favorable trends and the opportunities, especially for solutions that involve governments and businesses working together. But I want to begin by putting this in the overall context of the Global Compact. We need to recover better, in your phrase. But it's important to note that recovering better means recovering to a pattern of development and sustainable progress that is different from the one that we had before. And to broaden the context a little bit, it's not only the health crisis the world is facing with COVID-19, as well as the climate crisis and the inequality crisis that you all have noted, but we have a crisis of diversity, racism in my country, and I could go around the world and point to examples that are all unique, but and we're only a couple of years after the Me Too movement awakened us all around the world to a need for reimagining the fairness in eliminating gender discrimination. And I'm pleased to say, by the way, as an aside, that in my country, the U.S. Supreme Court has just made it illegal for anyone to discriminate against lesbians, gays, transgender people, bisexual people, etc. So these gains are being consolidated, and it inspires me to hope that there is a general awakening in our world. And why wouldn't there be, with all of these crises looming? It is another way of saying that as we build and recover, we need a systemic socioeconomic transformation. And where it touches upon climate, we have to divest from fossil fuels and invest in innovation and renewable energy and electric vehicles and batteries and regenerative agriculture and protection of forests and all of the other changes that are absolutely necessary. But let me put the two crises of COVID-19 and the climate crisis together just briefly in order to look at one of the similarities. Both of them illustrate for us the extreme dangers to humanity of ignoring the best scientific evidence that is available. The scientific community sometimes makes mistakes. Of course, every sector does, but the scientific community almost uniquely has a peer review process that actually values the discovery of mistakes and rewards scientists who say, hold on, you got this part wrong. And as a result of that, and the women and men who go into science, we get better results, generally speaking, from science than from many sectors. And when they warn us about a pandemic, we should listen. We should not weaponize the political divisions that some people want to stoke about a pandemic. We should listen to the scientists and have policies that protect the people of every nation and every group. And by the way, the inequality and racism problem I mentioned earlier is certainly on vivid display in the COVID-19 pandemic in my country. And again, we can see similar disturbing evidence around the world. But just as listening to the science is crucial for solving the horrors of this pandemic, listening to the scientists is crucial to dealing with the climate crisis. And actually, these impacts are getting worse. Last year was the second warmest year in recorded history. The scientists tell us that already halfway through 2020, it's pretty certain that this will end up at the end of the year being the hottest year ever measured. Of course, in the oceans, where more than 90% of the heat captured by the global warming pollution goes, the oceans are the hottest this year. They were the hottest last year. They're hotter than ever every single year. And the impacts are continuing. Not only extreme heat, but the climate-related extreme weather disasters cost the global economy $2.5 trillion in the last decade, $1 trillion more than the preceding decade. So these similarities are really important to take note of, but there are profound differences between COVID-19 and the climate crisis. One of them was pointed out by Secretary General Guterres when he said the impacts of the climate crisis are not due to last for years, months, or years, as COVID-19, as terrible as they are, they're due to last centuries. And if we don't get our act together quickly, they would last millennia. But the other difference is we have seen in many countries, including mine, the advice to shut down some economic activities in many sectors in order to socially distance and get the pandemic under control. By contrast, the climate crisis doesn't require cooling off the economy. It requires opening up the creation of all of these tens of millions of new jobs in solar and wind and the other sectors that I mentioned earlier. In my country, for the last 5 years, the fastest growing job has been solar installer. It's growing 5 times faster than average job growth. And over the next decade, it's predicted to grow 10 times faster. Second fastest growing job is wind turbine technician. Building retrofits in every country give us an opportunity to create millions of jobs in every community that can't be outsourced. And these are not pipe dreams. These are challenges that are opportunities to restore the kind of vitalism on a sustainable basis in our economy as we begin to recover. So it's a very exciting time, and the trends are very favorable. As many realize, the cost of renewable electricity has been plummeting downward and continues to go down, even as the age of fossil fuels is almost certainly coming to an end. Just this morning, one of the largest oil majors in the world, BP, announced that they are writing down $17.5 billion worth of assets on their books because they're subprime carbon assets, is the way I would describe them. 2/3 of the carbon assets that have already been discovered are not going to be burned, cannot be burned. And it's the most expensive source of energy now as renewables continue downward and as other new innovations take their place. So this is a fantastic opportunity. Just 2 weeks ago, by the way, the Oxford Review of Economic Policy, which included Nick Stern and Nobel Prize winning economist Joe Stiglitz and others, showed that green stimulus measures produce far more employment opportunities and, by definition, far less pollution. Green investments, according to the Oxford Review, generate almost 3 times the number of jobs as fossil fuel investments. They're fast. They can be implemented very quickly. They have significant co-benefits. And by the way, we've learned during the pandemic that the co-pollution from the burning of fossil fuels is a precondition for higher mortality rates under COVID-19. And that's true all over the world. So as we eliminate these co-pollutants, we can improve health, create new employment opportunities, reduce global warming pollution, and give our world an opportunity to move forward toward a safe and prosperous and more equitable future. It also helps to fight against economic inequality because the kinds of jobs that can be created all around the world are going to exactly the populations that need these opportunities. So this is an exciting time, and the opportunity for government and business to partner, as the Global Compact has made possible, is one of the most exciting parts of any of this. And by the way, we have seen in the last year with the Business Roundtable in my country, the premier business organization, announcing that shareholder primacy is no longer the purpose of business. It must be multi-stakeholder. The British Academy announced the same change. And of course, the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, has been advocating for this crucial change for 50 years. The world is listening now. And the business community, in a much more attentive way, is beginning to implement these changes. Now, it's not fair to ask business to do things that only governments can do. So we should not kid ourselves that business is going to do it all. We need policy changes. We need to stop subsidizing fossil fuels. It's utterly insane and self-destructive. We need to also beef up the encouragement for renewable energy technologies and the other sustainability technologies that are out there available to create jobs, to start reducing emissions, and we need to move forward with it expeditiously with a sense of urgency. So in concluding, let me say that during my remarks, I mentioned the hope that we might be on the verge of a new awakening, an awakening to the global nature of our civilization, the global nature of the challenges we face, the global nature of our economy, and the new opportunities in that economy that can benefit the people of every nation. But we must have a holistic, systemic change. And again, it's not a pipe dream. This is now possible. It can be done. And for anyone who doubts that we as human beings have the political will to implement such broad changes when we know we must, please always remember that political will is itself a renewable resource. Thank you again for inviting me to take part in this gathering, and Godspeed to all of us in the work that lies just ahead.
What a perfect end to the first 5 hours of the Leaders Summit. It's the UN Global Compact Leaders Summit. It's a virtual summit, obviously, because of COVID-19. But it doesn't mean that we all can't come together in a virtual way. So far, 17,000 of you have registered. We have people from over 180 different countries. There's a slight pause here for the main plenaries, but only a slight pause. There are breakout sessions. I've been checking out the pavilions that are on the conference platform. I know you all are already engaging on Twitter, on Instagram at Global Compact, on Facebook at UN Global Compact. I have seen pictures of the screen. Thank you for sharing them and sharing the conversation as well. This is a huge conference. There's so much more to do. For now, there is a pause, but do enjoy the rest of the conference online. I will see you in a couple of hours. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.